Ugh, having frizzy hair is the absolute worst. 2 years ago, I felt completely stuck with unmanageable, out of control frizzy waves. But since then, I have learned a lot about how to take care of my fine wavy hair. And in today's video, I want to share all the solutions that have worked for my once frizzy hair, and I really hope that they'll work for you too.
Frizz is a really big topic, so I thought to make it more manageable, we'd break it down into 3 areas. So today, let's talk about damage, techniques, and then products. And for each of those categories, I'm going to share with you tips and solutions that are going to help tame, reduce, and in some cases, even instantly smooth away frizz. But one thing I do just want to say before we get into it all is I'm not promising frizz-free hair. I have learned in the last couple of years that having wavy hair texture does mean learning to slightly embrace a little bit of the frizz, but I can definitely help you reduce it, manage it, smooth it, just not completely get rid of it. There we go. I feel better. I'm not promising frizz-free, but I am going to be able to help you drastically improve things. Okay, so for the topic of damage, I've got 5 solutions for you. But before we get to them, I do feel like you need to ask yourself, is my hair damaged? If the answer is no, I would personally just skip ahead to the next chapter. However, if you know you have damaged hair, watch on, I've got 5 solutions for you. So first up, and I'm sorry if this sounds a bit obvious, but 2 years ago, it actually wasn't obvious to me, so hopefully this will help somebody. But you need to identify the behavior that's causing the damage and then find an alternative to that behavior. So let me give you an example to kind of like make it easier to explain. I was having a full head of bleach highlights every 8 to 10 weeks. And that was definitely causing my hair to become very floofy, very frizzy, and quite fragile. However, I still wanted to stay blonde. So I spoke to my hairdresser and she talked me into having a more lived-in blonde. So nowadays I go probably every 3 to 4 months. I have a face frame and I have a scattering of kind of like baby blonde highlights. So I have a lot less bleach, a lot less colour, and I have significantly reduced how often I have it. So I'm still causing some damage, but nothing like as much, and it's massively improved the texture of my hair. So work out what it is that you're doing that's causing damage, and then find different ways that you can achieve looks that you're happy with that significantly reduce the amount of damage that you're doing. Second, if your hair is damaged, I highly recommend a trim or a cut. When your ends are no longer split, you won't see so much breakage, you won't get so much fluffy frizziness or stringiness at the ends of your hair. So having a good trim regularly, if you've got damaged hair, will really, really help it look smoother and sleeker. Third up, and this is probably one of my absolute favourites for damaged hair, is invest in some bond repair.
Dealing with damaged hair? Meet the polypeptide chain responsible for hair strength and elasticity.
I will talk more about my favourites in the product section, but this will have such a huge and pretty instantaneous improvement to the amount of frizz you're dealing with. From the very first use of the 3 that I'm going to recommend later, I saw a reduction in the frizziness of my hair. So highly recommend a bond repair. Number 4 is protein treatments. It was one of the ingredients that I found made such a huge difference to the texture of my hair. When my hair was at its most damaged, it felt like fragile floofiness. And once I started using protein treatments, that really started to change and my hair felt stronger and smoother to the touch and definitely less frizzy. Again, I'll talk through some of my favourites in the 3rd section when we talk about product. Okay, and then finally, tip or solution number 5 is, actually, I need to explain one thing before I mention this tip. I am not somebody who follows the curly method or the wavy hair method, and I don't really follow any particularly strict rules anymore. I did a recent video, I'll link it here, of wavy hair habits that I have actually quit or stopped, and one of them is I have quitting silicons. And so tip number 5 is if you are really struggling with frizz, I would highly recommend introducing a silicone-based treatment to your hair. That could be in the form of a deep conditioning treatment or a leave-in conditioner, or even actually just the conditioner you use after your shampoo. Depends on how much damage you're dealing with, I think. But specifically, if you can find something with amodimethicone, that for my colour treated, frizz prone, fragile hair has been a game changer. So my fifth solution is introduce silicons to your wavy hair care routine. Okay, now let's talk techniques. How you wash and style your hair is going to have a really big impact on the end result and how much frizz you're dealing with. So I've got 8 tips to share with you here that are going to help reduce and tame frizz during the wash and styling process. So first up, don't wash your hair upside down. I know loads of people have success with it, but personally, I would avoid washing your hair upside down. So I mean like head tip forward. I find with my fine wavy hair that if I do that, it will just get so tangled. It will then require me to brush it a lot more and work through those tangles, and that is just going to lead to frizz. So I highly recommend washing your hair stood upright in the shower. And to be honest, you know, when you're washing, you want to focus on the roots. I find it easier to do that stood up straight anyway. Next up, do not skip conditioner. If you have frizz prone hair, you really, really want to make sure that you apply enough conditioner in the shower so that your hair has that lovely, slippery, wet seaweed texture. Once it feels like that, you've got enough conditioner in your hair. Don't skip it. It will definitely reduce the amount of frizz you're dealing with. Tip number 3, if your hair is particularly frizz prone, I would be careful about how much brushing you do when it's dry. Now, I feel a bit hypocritical saying that because it's actually one of the things that I've reintroduced to my hair care routine. So I do now brush my hair when it's dry, but in the early days when my hair was much more damaged, like 18 months ago, I did stop brushing it when it was dry. So this is about, again, I think this applies to everything. You have to find out what works for you. But if you're really struggling with frizz, I would avoid too much dry brushing. And if you do opt to do it, then apply a light oil first to help give some slip. Be very gentle, use something like a tangle teaser, and work always from kind of like the ends upwards. But if you're struggling with frizz, then you may want to try stopping brushing your hair when it's dry and see if that improves things. Number 4, I think this is number 4, multi-layering overcomplicated routines. The reason for this is I don't think there's anything wrong with these routines. They can yield some great results, but if you're struggling with frizz, you are more likely to create frizz when you have to add multiple products. So you apply a leave-in conditioner, then you apply a curl cream. Next, you're adding a mousse, you're raking, you're glazing, you're scrunching. Now you're adding a gel. Every time you touch your hair, you are more likely to cause friction, and that leads to frizz. So if you're struggling, opt for a really nice, simple routine. So personally, most of the time these days, I'm going for a leave-in conditioner and then I add a gel and that's it. I mean, I always, add an oil at the very, very end of my routine, but in terms of styling products, leave-in conditioner, gel, job done. Let's talk diffusing tips. I would opt for only hover diffusing if you find that your hair gets very frizzy during the drying process. So I would avoid upside down, so like head tip forward, and cupping or pixie diffusing. I would avoid all of that because again, you're having to move your hair around and it's going to be more likely to create frizz. So instead, just use the hover diffuse method where you're just holding that diffuser over your head. I kind of focus on getting this band dry first, then I make the decision of, do I want some volume? If I do, I might just pop my fingers in here, but I actually like my hair to be flatter at the top. And then where I've got so much more bleach through the ends, my hair dries quite quickly there. So I just focus on that band through the middle, get my roots dry, and then generally, to be honest, the ends are dry by that point anyway, and you're going to get a smoother, less frizzy result. Okay, next tip is actually about updos. I am quite careful these days about how I put my hair up, and the reason for that is it's more of a kind of longer term problem. You won't necessarily see it straight away, but when you have very tight updos, you're creating tension. And I found, particularly when I first took up tennis again about sort of a year and a half ago, maybe less than that, I was putting my hair into a very tight ponytail because it used to drive me nuts if it sort of got in my face when I was trying to play. And I was getting breakage around here. So even though I was using the Kitsch nylon hairbands, which I highly recommend because they won't tangle your waves. Because of the tightness and the duration for which I had that ponytail up, all of that tension was causing breakage. So I would definitely avoid tight updos that create tension. Instead, I still pull my hair back into a ponytail, but I always just push it forward slightly and loosen it to make sure it's not tense. To keep the hair away from my face, instead what I now do is I would just very lightly mist of water from my continuous spray bottle and then apply some gel, rub it between my hands, get a really good coverage, and then just slick it back. And that gives you that kind of like slicked back look, but without the tension, which can lead to breakage. And then obviously when you've got breakage, your hair looks much frizzier because of all those short little pieces. Okay, my second to last tip is, I guess, not really about washing and styling your hair, but it is about how you protect your hair at night. So, you know, you've done a lovely wash and style routine, you've got good results, you've managed the frizz really well. If you then go to bed and sleep on a cotton pillowcase with your hair just loose, you are so much more likely to create loads of friction, and friction leads to frizz. So you'll wake up in the morning with a lot more frizz than you went to bed with. My basic, if you're just going for like beginner level, I would say sleep on a satin or silk pillowcase. Next up, I would say put your hair into like a loose ponytail with a satin scrunchie, say, for example. So high up on your head, nice and loose, no tension, but just keeping the hair off your neck. For me, I like to use a satin scarf. I know my hair's protected, and I have found I get a much better, much smoother result. And then lastly, linked to nighttime routine is definitely don't go to bed with wet hair. Trust me, I have learnt this mistake the hard way. So once, very, very early on in my wavy hair journey, I was still doing much more complicated routines that took me a lot longer. Oh, sorry, I'm getting uncomfy. And I think I'd just run out of time and patience. So I went to bed with probably about 60 or 70% wet hair. Here are the results. Not a good look, couldn't rescue it, couldn't save it. Hair was tangled and frizzy. It was an absolute nightmare. So just avoid. Always make sure your hair is dry before you get into bed. Now, before we move on to products, I did just want to say, if you would like me to film a video on how I do a bouncy blow dry, avoiding frizz as much as possible, I do have a technique that I tried recently that lasted, I think, 5 or 6 days of, now I said it's not frizz free, but honestly, hardly a sign of frizz in my hair. I was blown away. So if you would like me to film that, let me know. Okay, so let's talk products. Some products can really, really help when it comes to frizz, and others I have found to be a complete waste of money. So let me share with you some of my absolute favorites, the products that have helped me significantly reduce, manage, and tame frizz. First up, we talked about it earlier, it's got to be bond repair. I think these are so transformative to dry, damaged, frizz-prone hair. My 3 favourites would be K18, Olaplex No3, and a new favourite, really firm favourite, used it today, is the one from Redken. And I can't remember its name because it's very long, but I call it Redken Bond Repair, and I will link the official product in the description box. First up, K18. Okay, it is expensive, yes. It is definitely an investment worth making if you have very damaged hair though. I do honestly believe it's one of the products that significantly improved the texture and the strength of my hair. For me, it is well worth the money. Next up is Olaplex No3. I have found it massively beneficial to my hair. It makes my hair feel stronger. I have the Olaplex solution worked in with my colour treatment, so I'm helping to protect it a little bit while I'm having that bleach. My experiences have only been positive, and I do highly, highly recommend. And then more recently, as part of a hair growth experiment, like I was putting 5 hair growth hacks to the test for 30 days, I bought and tried Redken's, what is it? Intensive Concentrate Bond Repair, something like that. It's amazing. I think it was one of my favourite product discoveries of 2024. And I feel like I love it more and more every time I use it. It's easy to use. You use it before you start your wash routine. You just spray down your hair so it's nice and wet. You apply it for 10 to 15 minutes. And then after you've done your hair routine, whatever routine you're going to do, I've tested this out with air drying, with side dunking, with just like a light scrunch. It just leaves your hair feeling so beautiful, so soft. I think my hair looks shiny. I think it looks healthy. Oh, honestly, I could sit here and just say lovely positive things about it all day long. Really highly, highly recommend. Super impressed. So those are my favourite 3 bond repairs. If your hair is dry to the touch and if you're dealing with a lot of frizz, try a protein treatment. And some of my favourites include the Ziaja goat's milk hair mask. Budget friendly. I think it's still about £5 or £6. I get mine on Amazon and it's amazing. I sometimes use it just as a normal conditioner and sometimes I will pop it on as a hair mask and step out of the shower, and it really instantly smooths my hair and helps me to manage the frizz. Another one that I have recently reintroduced to my hair care routine because it does have silicons in it, Elizavecca Cer 100. I find this is a particularly nice one to do after a clarifying wash or before a bouncy blow dry. Pulling out my own hair. It gives a really lovely smooth finish to the hair, nice and sleek and shiny, so particularly good before a bouncy blow dry. And then another kind of honourable mention is Curlsmith's Bond Salve. Now I think they position this more as a bond repair treatment, but it does, I'm sure, have rice protein in it. And again, I always had a very, very lovely finish to my hair whenever I use that. So the one from Curlsmith is lovely. And then also Briogeo, yeah. Don't Despair Repair. Really great product. But if I was going to pick one, for me, the budget friendly ones win out in this particular category. Okay, let's also talk conditioning masks because I do think that frizz is very often caused from having dry hair, and I do find that sometimes doing a more kind of like deep conditioning, moisturising oil-based treatment can be really beneficial. And I do have 2 very, very firm favourites in this category, and the first, I just love it so much, is Camile Rose Deep Algae Renew Mask. And to supercharge it, I quite often now, when I take the time to do this treatment, I would supercharge it with a hat steamer. Camile Rose with a hat steamer, thank me later. The other one I also like, if you want to incorporate a little bit more of kind of like a scalp care treatment, is from Grow Gorgeous. I think from memory it's called their scalp treatment and thickening hair mask, something like that. Again, I'll link it below. It's really beautiful. It's packed full of really amazing ingredients, niacinamide, caffeine. So it helps kind of like if you've had an itchy scalp or you just want to give your scalp a bit of a treatment, it's lovely, and it also leaves my hair feeling very silky and smooth. So highly recommend that one as well. Now, one product I always use these days, no matter what routine I'm doing, is a leave-in conditioner. And I honestly think that it is that product in my lineup that massively reduced the amount of frizz in my hair. So some of my favourites, first up, it would be Not Your Mother's Curl Talk one. It's got protein in it. So I will always use that. If I haven't used protein in my wash routine, I will always go straight in with that. It's very lightweight, but as soon as it hits my hair, I almost don't even need to take a brush to it. My hair sort of detangles itself. That's how magic it is. Honestly, I love that product. It is amazing. Now, if I was going to do a bouncy blow dry, the only product that I would reach for when it comes to leave-in conditioner would be Bumble and Bumble's Invisible Oil. That stuff is stunning, and it will give you such a smooth, sleek finish. It will tame those flyaways. You can add a little bit afterwards, you know, to the ends of your hair. It will protect from heat, it helps prime, it helps lock in moisture. It's lightweight, it won't make your hair greasy or oily. It's superb, and I reach for it whenever I know I'm going to do a bouncy blow dry. Love it. And then finally, new launch from Olaplex, kind of middle of 2024, I think it was, their number 5 Moisturise and Mend. It's what I use today. I have it right here. There we go. It is a stunning formula. It's a creamy texture. I think all of the others that I've mentioned, yeah, they're all sprays, whereas this is actually a creamy finish. There we go. and pop this freebie into my hair. I don't want to waste it. You can use it on dry hair. You can use it on wet hair. It is a heat protectant. It will help detangle your hair. It will keep it nice and smooth. I feel like it's hydrating my hair. It doesn't weigh it down. It's not sticky. I can get away with one pump, but generally I probably do like 1.5 as my hair is getting longer and longer. It's stunning, and as soon as this is finished I will actually go and repurchase this. It is so good. It smells nice. I also use it when I'm doing updos, so I'm so glad that Olaplex launched this last year, and it's kind of like a holy grail item for me already. So that is perfect for managing frizz. Okay, and then my final product recommendation is gel, and it's not really a specific product recommendation. I will mention a couple of my favourites, but I do think that if you're going to use a styling product and you struggle with frizz, I personally would recommend a gel over a mousse. And the reason is that I find mousse naturally has like a bit of grit and a bit of texture. It gives a little bit of volume and lift. Sorry, the light today in here is bonkers. It's just gone really super dark suddenly. But it does mean that I will get more frizz. So if you want to smooth frizz, I would definitely recommend using a gel as your styling hold product. Some of my favourites, I'm so sorry, I feel this is not sponsored by Olaplex, I wish.
In my dreams.
Olaplex No10, the gel that came out last year. I used it today, used the leave-in conditioner and scrunched a bit, and then used the gel. You don't feel it, definitely manages frizz for me. Again, I know it's on the more pricey side, but a little goes a long way. I am gonna have that Olaplex gel for so long. I do think it's worth it. I think when I did my first impressions video, I wasn't as blown away by it, but the more I have used it, the more I have just fallen in love with it. Particularly for its frizz fighting abilities. The other one though that I do recommend and is probably a little bit more budget friendly is the Stronghold gel from Giovanni. That was one of my early favourites, but for my hair to not feel too much product in it, I do dilute it. So I squeeze a little bit into one hand and then either just run my hand under water or dunk it into a basin, or rub it together so that you get a diluted gel, and then I add it to my hair. But I do find that gel helps seal and lock in the moisture and the conditioner that you've added, you know, through your leave-ins or your curl creams, whatever it is you're using on your hair. It'll help lock all of that in, and it will help tame some of that frizz. Okay, one final piece of advice, solution or tip, whatever you want to call it from me, that kind of didn't fit into any of these categories, it sort of spans techniques and products, is talking about hair oils. A good hair oil can be your best friend for taming flyaways and frizz on day 2, day 3, day 4, however long you go between washes. And there are 2 that I would recommend. And one of them I have to just completely hand over all responsibility to a subscriber of mine. It was thanks to her that I have fallen in love with this oil, but I'm going to talk about that one second. So first up, it really does sound like I'm sponsored by Olaplex, and I definitely 100% am not. Olaplex No7 bonding oil. I'm sorry, I'm a broken record, but they make amazing products. I love this oil because it is lightweight, it will not make my hair greasy, and it's multi-purpose. So it does a really great job at scrunching out the crunch. It also adds beautiful shine, and if I'm doing an updo, it will smooth away flyaways. On day 2, if my hair's got a little bit frizzy overnight, again, it will smooth away some of that frizz, some of that flyaway that you get, that sort of slightly messier look. It will tame all of that on day 2 or day 3. However, if you have probably coarser hair than me, thicker hair than me, or you're on day 3 or day 4 and need to fight a little bit more frizz, I bought, on the recommendation of my subscriber, a hair oil from Algae, and it's quite a thick consistency, and I don't love it for scrunching out the crunch. It's too sticky. However, for taming flyaways and frizz, it is beautiful. Let me show you this.
I know my hair looks really unsymmetrical at the moment, but there's a reason why. I picked this up recently from Algae. It is the honey infused hair oil. When I did my first impressions, I was like, it's a lot thicker than I expected. It felt a bit sticky and it wasn't great for scrunching out the crunch. However, someone said to me, try it on day 3 or day 4. Lovely subscriber of mine. So I have just done that. I have smoothed it down and used the hair oil on this side, and it's tamed. Like you see on this side, I've got kind of all this frizz and it looks a bit drier, particularly at the ends. It's added this really beautiful shine and it's tamed my frizz. This does really smell lovely. A few drops. I literally just kind of rubbed it between my fingers and then smoothed it all over my hair, and it has instantly just helped tame that fluffiness and that frizz, and it's added some lovely shine. And yeah, I think that looks lovely.
And so that is how I used that hair oil. It's brilliant and it smells beautiful. It's so good for day 2 or day 3. I just personally don't use it for scrunching out the crunch. As I said, I will link everything below. If you're interested in learning about those 5 hair habits that I have recently quit, then you may want to check out this video here. Thank you as always for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.